And I am going to apologize in advance if you hear the beads. That's because I have my trusted, I don't know if you can see, who's at, who is at work with me today. Isabel, say hi. Can you say blah, blah, blah? Don't say blah, blah, blah. So anyways, let's recap on 9.1 that we finished with the other day, guys. Super sorry I'm gone, but it is what it is. So we'll just keep trucking along. So we left off at our notes yesterday, um, either rejecting or failing to reject a hypothesis test. So remember we talk about the null and the alternative, and we denote the null as the HO, which we're also going to call the HO. And we denote the alternative as the ha, and that would be H sub A, sorry. So we left off right here, talking about when we're going to reject and when we're going to fail to reject. Remember, we talked about we never accept. So notice that our two options are either we reject the null and conclude the ha, or we fail to reject the null and we cannot conclude the ha. Notice that we never ever accept. Okay, guys, and again, we talked about it's like being in court for something. We never say you're innocent. We just say you're not guilty. So the question was, we talked about if P is low, reject the HO. How do we know if P is low enough? Well, they might give you guys this alpha. If they don't give you an alpha, you're always going to default to comparing your p-value to an alpha of 0.05. So if your p-value is less than 0.05, that's when you will reject. Okay, so this alpha right here, I'm talking about 0.05 unless I specifically give you something different. Okay. And so let's recall the Wilcox example where he makes 80% of his free throws. I don't know if that's hard for you guys to see. I'm going to scan these in too so you guys can have my notes and look at them. We got a p-value of 0.007. Do you guys remember that? When we did it by hand, we got 0, and then we went and did the normal CDF, and we got 0.007. So we're going to go ahead and conclude. So 0.007. If we relate that to our alpha of 0.05, this is less than 0.05, right? So this is how we're going to interpret. When you guys look at the rubric, there's 3 checkoffs. They want you to interpret the P, they want you to give them evidence, and they want you to make some sort of a decision, okay? So assuming that our null was true, remember we always assume that the null is true when we make these assumptions. So assuming the null is true of 0.8, there is a 0.007 probability of obtaining a p-value of 0.66 or lower purely by chance. This provides good evidence against our HO and is statistically significant at 0.01. I gave you guys 0.01. Okay, if I don't give it to you, always default to 0.05. Okay, therefore, we're going to reject the null, and we can conclude that, now I'm going to insert the ha in context, the true proportion of free throws made by Mr. Wilcox is less than 0.8. Done. Okay. So let's use a different scenario. Let's suppose that Wilcox had made 37 out of 50 free throws. This would give us a p-value of 0.144. So if we go ahead and use alpha as 0.05, that means that 0.144 is greater than alpha. If we're greater than alpha, we fail to reject, and we cannot conclude the ha. So here's how that would look. Assuming the null is true and p equals 0.8, there is a 0.144 probability of obtaining a p-value of 0.74 or lower purely by chance. This provides weak evidence against the null and is not statistically significant at 0.05. Therefore, we fail to reject the HO and we cannot conclude that the proportion of free throws made by Mr. Wilcox is less than 0.8. That's it. Okay. So for today's class, guys, you should have taken the bell work at the beginning of class. That was review of normal curves, which we should be super awesome at now. We did all of these notes last Thursday in class since we had the mock on Friday. I will scan these in, so if you were absent Thursday, you can go ahead and get those filled in. If you weren't here, attempt to check your understanding. It's a nice check off to make sure you guys know what's going on. And then, like I said, we just finished up everything else that we had gone over. So you should, for the rest of the class hour, go over A47, which are these numbers right here, and then that should be good. So remember this week, guys, on Wednesday, we're collecting what should have been collected on Tuesday. So we're going to go ahead and collect, you should have done the p-value example on the end of your 9.1 intro notes, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and collect A47 tomorrow also, okay? So I will put those on the assignment, but those are the two things I'm going to look for on Wednesday, okay? Other than that, I'll answer questions when I get back tomorrow, and thanks, guys, for being understanding. See you tomorrow. Bye.